ain't going back. Not gonna buy into all that. Hey, hey, ain't gonna hide. Gonna let all the fears slide. Got Mother Nature is on my side. Got all of the loving growing inside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Lorenzo's New Now. I am so delighted to be here with the bearded Harald Kautz. It's been a little while, as anybody who's seen his face last can tell, since we've chatted last, given him a time to have a nice full beard. We are going to discuss in the business of duality today, taking things a little further from where we've gone before. Harald, hello and welcome.
Good already morning.
For both of us, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 1 a.m. where Harold's talking right now, 8 a.m. where I am, being in Japan, and Harald being in Germany, I'm sure. So Harald, in the business of duality, healing, let's see, what exactly do you mean by that? What's the definition for you? And yeah, let's begin. Sounds very interesting.
I made one funny, it's not funny, it's serious, but it's a beautiful observation. For the last half year, I had quite a few clients, like 3 appointments a day in average, on assisting in spiritual issues. And I had to realize that there are really two completely distinct classes of people getting in contact with me for help. And one of them, what I can see as a pattern is that the entire incarnation seems to be, this one, the current running one, seems to be dedicated to completely close all business with duality. It's like every single topic that still needs healing is coming onto the table. These people are, from a normal standpoint, you would say they're cursed in this lifetime, because shit happens, and it happens over and over and over again. If one shit is cleaned, the next shit happens. And my thought was, if you're stuck in that type of a life and you don't know exactly what's happening, you might feel cursed. But actually, if you understand the pattern behind it, it's more like a blessing, because the soul plan, the spiritual realm, has decided that it's supposed to be it with duality. So, if you pack your stuff, you leave your hotel, you want to leave everything behind clean, healthy and sorted. So it seems to be a pattern that actually is something people who find themselves in it could celebrate as well. And give some extra speed to get things solved and done. And my general idea was just to share a little bit on the abstract plane, what seems to be included in clearing up.
Very interesting.
It has some form of order of things in which healing topics appear, and it has a certain depth it wants to reach before you can see, oh, this is it. Now they have arrived in the state the soul has decided to go to.
So what would some of those areas look like to people watching right now who wanted to go on the path of healing their duality, shall we say?
The first steps that always need to be done is actually clearing the running incarnation, which means dissolving all the trauma that was acquired in this lifetime, getting your lower chakras smoothly running, which means the feeling is in the field. It's not stuck in the body. It's not blocked. It's in the aura. It's fluent and it's in the aura. It includes like soul losses and splits that happened in this lifetime. So, and you can see with these people that mostly this lifetime includes all the topics that were opened up in other ones. It's like the sum of everything. If somebody had one lifetime where he was completely abused and mistreated, he will receive some of it in his childhood, just as a reminder of what his topic is. And so it seems to be like a complete holistic overview of the topic that was set with the soul plan and all the things that have been already gathered as experience. So you have the little reminder. So actually the entire process can run without professional help, without being in the position of having time to do heavy internal spiritual work. So, you get the triggers, you have patterns repeating in your lifetime. If you solve them in a good way, just as a human being, the business might be done. And you don't even feel if whatever previous lifetime aspect is integrated on that course. So it's not that only those who have the luxury of spending time with systematic spiritual inner work have a chance to complete things. It is a possible way. Definitely it's not the only one. So the first thing to really manage is clearing the perception mode within this lifetime, which means mental field and emotional body should be balanced, and in a way the heart should be awakened. This is something you see more and more, that people appear to have an open heart chakra and are just flooding this this place with their love in one or the other way, which I haven't seen before. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I was not resonating on that plane that can see if people did it. But from what I see, it's getting more and more.
I'm noticing that too. It's going both ways. It seems to be going more closed-hearted people and more, always a balance, right? So I'm seeing it a lot of it on both sides of the fence, so to speak.
And if this is accomplished, then the deeper layers of human consciousness start getting involved, which means when I feel freely, I can access my emotional memory, and the emotional memory covers previous lifetimes. And it's so amazing, because a couple of years ago, if you would have asked me, do many people have that ability to remember previous lifetimes? I would have said maybe 1 of 100 or 1 of 500 or whatever. Everybody that comes to me has that ability. And I have no clue whether it's a quality that comes in with me, that people remember. Now it's like 9 of 10 really remember. Or whether it's a time quality that the universe has shifted to a structure where it's easier to recall those things.
Maybe both.
And then what you can see is that people start gathering kind of the karmic cycles they have been through. Like, let's say we have a lady that works in a group helping raped women. whatever, imagines something. And then you definitely, and this is her now lifetime, where you would say she's a little bit more in the savior role. And then you very likely will find a lifetime where she was victimized and raped herself. And you will find another lifetime where she might have been a soldier that was after combat taking what soldiers used to take for the last millennia after combat, raping the women of the defeated tribe or country. So you get all three perspectives: perpetrator, victim, and savior, on one and the same topic, which means this soul has at some point made the decision to explore the topic of sexual abuse. It's like a class we take. What happens if, how does it feel like when you do it? How does it feel like when it was done to you? How does it feel like when you need to deal with people who went through the experience? In compassion, how does it feel like to have someone like that as a partner who went through the suffering? There are so many different aspects of what abuse does, that when you come to the point of integrating the previous lifetime soul aspects, you integrate different perspectives. And I always used to compare it like it's the difference when you are in a lifetime, it's like being a character in a book. But when you have the ability to see all different roles in the novel from a higher perspective, and you understand everyone, and you understand how interaction actually works in the different subjective perspectives, you go more into the author role. So you would have the capability of writing a novel, which is a different perspective. And this is kind of what is giving you the extra dimension as well. That you kind of look on things from above.
Makes sense.
And then when you integrate those three things, the karmic cycle is closed, which means people have, or spirits have fulfilled the goal or the plan they came for, to have a look at the topic from all possible angles. And I can see this very clearly in both in private sessions and on seminars, where it started to develop that way. Kind of when I started working, it was all about trauma. Releasing trauma is what gives you access to your lower chakras, the higher ones or whatever. Clearing the chakras at the end of the day. And then it started to basically happen that we had trauma, but we had no traumatizing event during this lifetime. Definitely none. Then you have to look deeper, and then you find suddenly traumatizing events, but the setting doesn't match. You get memories where people wear funny clothes, or it looks like a different continent or whatever. So whatever it is, somehow humans can access other people's experience, and we regard it as reincarnation related. So keep it in that view. And then again, sometimes it's just good to bring relief to one lifetime experience. And sometimes it becomes then clear that just getting along with being or having been a victim brings some relief, but not completely. Real relief is when the laughter at the end of the day is really free and ecstatic and jumps straight into divine joy. And if you don't get that, it's clear that something else needs to be healed. So someone who just
yeah.
recovers his victimhood. He might have learned what it means to be a victim, but it doesn't make him relaxed because he still will blame someone.
Right.
And we're still judgmental.
Mm.
And then when you add another lifetime where he needs to integrate being a perpetrator on exactly the same motives, then he will either not make it, the integration, or if he does it, he will need to forgive himself to understand how does it look like being a perpetrator. What do you suffer during early childhood to become someone like that? And then understanding yourself, forgiving yourself, there's no other way than to understand and forgive the perpetrator of the other lifetime. So you pull back into a completely non-judgmental, neutral position. And this is what is giving you the author capabilities.
Makes sense.
So this is what I'm experiencing more and more, that people really rush and hurry kind of to get their things packed. So I wonder what's coming next.
Seems that way, doesn't it? Like I can talk from my own perspective, living in Japan, where I feel like I don't even have to feel I am a refugee from Canada right now. I can't even return without putting some unwanted substances into my body, and so things packed ready to go. And it's been amazing and forcing of this sorts of integration when you become uprooted, let's say.
Mm. I don't know if it's a good idea to share some techniques that proved to be helpful in self-healing. I mean, I started doing kind of short tutorials just on my own, outside of a discussion. Because we, over the course of the year, we found quite elegant solutions to problems that were rather serious before. For example, demonic possessions. Yeah, if you have AI parasites in your system from whatever incident or whatever reason. When I remember a couple of years ago, it was like going into combat. You had to take your energetic hands and pull them, and you got into an open warfare. And this is kind of all duality stuff. And the standard procedure now is create a trinary cage around you. It could be a tetrahedron, kind of a pyramid with a triangle as a base. Could be a cage with a triangle on the floor and a triangle above you with 3 bars around you. Or optimal form would be a dodecahedron. This is kind of the perfect geometry that resembles heart consciousness. So you create a cage around you. All you need to do is imagine the corners and the lines connecting the corners around your body, including your aura, everything. And then you fixate that geometric structure to the ground. And then you step out of it. You simply leave the cage. And the problem for a binary entity, it can't leave a trinary cage. From the perspective of the entity, it's like being captured in a transparent crystal. It can't pass through the surface. So you just step out, turn around, and look what you captured.
Ooh.
And mostly people are so connected to the entities they have been carrying that they have a very clear vision of what's in there. And then also a big difference. A couple of years ago, we would have activated violet flames and burn them down to ash, But even this has changed, because we did that because whenever we are asked, what do you want to see next in your life, to those binary entities, mostly the answer was, dissolve me. I'm lost. I lost the fight. So please dissolve me, bring it to an end. If you ask now and you offer the option of reconnecting the entities to the divine, they tend to say yes.
Really?
Yeah. 95% are willing to go through instant karma pains to again become part of the kingdom of source.
Interesting.
And then you take the entire cage, visualize just a light beam coming from above, and you ask for salvation for that being, and then it goes into, we call that the elevator of growth, kind of being pulled up. And while being pulled up, it just goes through all the karmic consequences of its own doings. And at the end of the road, it will be granted its own connection to source again, which is kind of the reason why they have been doing what they have been doing at the first place. They attach to incarnating spirits that have a connection to the divine because they have lost theirs. They need our emotional body to remember what it felt like to have an emotional body of their own. So they're healing through us. So at the end of the day, if their healing process is accomplished, they can ascend as well and get reconnected. And it's a beautiful way to do it. And I've seen some of them coming back as really beautiful beings, with a deep experience of having fallen that deep.
Human or coming back as something else?
Non-human entities, coming back as non-human entities, but in sheer beauty. After the instant karma process. So that's a major one, because we don't, it's like we've been sitting in this war for millennia, having an enemy that was hardly possible to defeat, because those entities were so clever. In the time quality we have now, it's just a joke. You put them in something trinary, they're binary, they have lost. They can't do anything. They can't throw spells at you. Nothing is exiting from that cage. They can't get out of it. And you can watch them becoming humble within minutes. Big mouth. Before, and suddenly, oops, they need to realize that they are not that superior, because this is the illusion. Just because they are more intelligent, they think they're superior. But they're just like a sketch on a piece of paper while we are 3D.
Is there, maybe it's a way of speaking when you're capturing the binary parasite at the time, is it one at a time that from a being in that cage, or does everyone have one? Is there multiple, or is it just, is this a undefinable way of speaking about it? Perhaps
you can find zoos of them in one cage.
Zoos.
Yes.
Zoos. It's a good way of putting it. Zoos of them. So all from a single.
I'm not sure. With the entities, it was always the way that when an entity was fully identified with, then it can sneak out, because it's not an entity, it's part of you. So things occur become visible when it's about time, when de-identification has happened. And then there are distinct entities because of the de-identification. So it's not a guarantee that if you do it once, you capture them all.
Gotcha.
Another thing, even if something is identified and as an entity and de-identified from the own being, it can happen that it's running on a contract. An entity that is running on a contract can easily escape a trinary cage because somehow it's bound to you. I don't understand the physics of it, but it's a repetitive pattern.
Gotcha.
So if you realize, like, I remember I dissolved my people-pleasing narcissist codependency pattern, and in the last bits, I realized that these Cthulhu entities live in the social interaction between narcissists and people pleaser.
Did you say Cthulhu?
Cthulhu, the Kraken entity, octopus.
Right. Sounds like Robert E. Howard, not the H.P. Lovecraft, the Cthulhu sounds like.
Yeah. Like the captain of the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Gotcha.
Thingy. So the normal position is that the narcissist has one sitting in the solar plexus, and it has his arms in the solar plexus of the people pleasers, forwarding a fear field. So the entire setup is running on fear field diplomacy. Nothing needs to be spoken. The narcissist is controlling the field through his entity, and the people pleaser is obeying just because he's scared shit. But nothing of this is real. This is all kind of the emotional part that is rejected by the humans, absorbed by the entities, and then abused by the entities to play their power games. And so I realized I was in the position of having a tentacle in my solar plexus, because you deal with the codependency, you separate relationships, you educate yourself in getting rid of the related personalities. Everything that can be cleared is cleared, and still there's fear in the game. Kind of, I go shopping and I still think about buying something for the one that used to control me. Little impulses like that still happening. And I wondered, okay, something is left. And then I had a client who actually had a free vision on the entity related things in his company, where the boss for the narcissist controlling all the employees. And he could see the Kraken. He could see the tentacles, even the one sticking in his solar plexus, but he couldn't do anything about it. He just described it. He quitted the shop, I think, to get out of it. So I just checked at myself, and I could feel the tentacle, and I could pull it. And then I did the standard check if there's more entity things in me. Did the trinary fear cage trick, and I tested on 11 entities in me, kind of muscle testing, and 10 went out with a cage.
You mean escaped to come back?
No. I pulled them.
Oh, I see.
Leaving them behind in the
Gotcha.
cage. So, and one was still with me. So it was clear, okay, he must have a contract. So I asked kind of to see where the contract came from. And actually it was a previous lifetime contract where I wanted to have power over people. And I contracted one of those entities to get the power. And it was signed that way. You're now allowed to live in me, and therefore you manipulate people on my behalf. And with the contract for the entity, it was so I needed to go through the entire process of understanding what I did, why I did it, regretting that I ever played with those forces, learning my karmic lesson. And then it's possible to cancel those contracts. You say, thank you, I have learned my lesson. I wish I never had said yes, but I did. So, it's all about even the dark side is not that evil, They play a role. They tempt you. If you buy into the temptation, you've got the opportunity to learn that it's a bad choice. And if you have learned it really from the bottom of your heart, they say, job done, So you can exit contracts if you have learned your lesson, honestly. And then you just cancel the contract by decision in the face of the entity you signed it with, and then you do the cage again, and then it works. Then it can't escape with you out of the cage. So that's kind of one technique that showed very, very helpful in getting clean.
Did you give that particular entity the choice, dissolution or reintegration?
Yeah, he ascended.
Oh, nice.
He went up. Yes, beautiful moment. He was with me he was old already. I mean, they have also just 80 years lifespan. So
interesting.
He was in old age already. Retired.
Retired parasite. Nice. But I guess you agreed to bring it into your body. So in some ways, this is the ultimate in not being a victim, in sweetly helping others, even if they're not human, as you help yourselves to a better way to be alive. It's an interesting way of seeing things.
It's a core thing to understand that we don't get enlightened by rejecting the darkness.
Right, 100%.
We get there by integrating it, including it, loving it to the last bit.
I would hear you. It's a beautiful time to be alive. Personally, as we're talking about this healing, I've known for the last couple of years something nice was coming. By nice, I mean more loving. And by more loving, I mean more freeing. And, you and I haven't chatted for a few months, and now we've come around to this particular sharing. And for me, it's a beautiful island of growth and a signpost along the way for perhaps why this craziness has been happening for the last few years, is to bring about the potential for what you just mentioned.
Another one that I really liked, it was a surprise success, was about body armor. Because some people really carry heavy stuff with them, and they have hard times to get their emotion free because of body armor, like out of the need to protect themselves during childhood. They run around like a medieval knight with metal shields and stuff all over the place. And I remember when I was younger, it was a big topic to go to therapists to get rid of those. And they used to work years and years on body armor, and they couldn't crack it, mostly. The best one I ever found back then was like from Wilhelm Reich, rotating your arms until you get a nervous breakdown to crack through it. And even that one didn't help with myself. And I just had the idea on one of the seminars to treat it similar to a trinary cage, kind of become aware of the visual signature of the body armor. It has its looks. If you are honest with yourself, you can see how it is built and what it is. And then you kind of do the same thing. You fixate it to the ground. You just decide that this armor is not moving from spot you stand on. And then you kind of just open it and step out.
Mm.
And I've seen really weird stuff happening with people when they did that.
You mean recently?
Yeah. And it's repeating success on a quite intense level, that suddenly emotions flow that haven't flown for ages. And perceptions come back. Integration of lost soul parts suddenly becomes possible because of the armor is not in the way anymore. Easygoing thing. Just become aware of it and step out. Another one that is, as a technique, quite new. I researched that one for a couple of years when I was really young, still university age. I was kind of studying popular myth and came across the Madonna whore complex. And kind of the understanding from mainstream psychology is that if very young children feel like they very likely will not survive their own parents, then something happens, especially if they won't survive the mother because she's crazy, unreliable, violent, whatever reason. A child can't take that. It's not an option. The will to survive and the necessity to build trust in the universe is his number one target. So it needs a mom that is reliable and supportive. So everything that doesn't fit into that picture of the supportive mom is split off and put into a second mom. So those babies grow up with two mothers. One is loving and supportive, and whenever something happens that doesn't fit into that pattern, it's the other mom.
Do you mean physically two moms, or it's an imaginary two moms?
It's an imaginary two moms.
Gotcha.
And to do that, they need to shift from the perceptive consciousness plane to a conceptual consciousness plane, because this split can only be done in the conceptual realm. And this shift from one to another consciousness realm is what takes them out of the now.
Right.
And it's a huge brick for the entire autism spectrum if this happens. I mean, we have blamed many biochemical components like vaccinations and mercury, but not being in your body in a proper way, in the perceptive mode, also might have just that component, or both, or whatever. And kind of I was always astonished how when you deal with previous lifetimes, how things you heal in that imaginary realm of memories and perceptions, how they have a direct impact on your spiritual health. Kind of you fix a trauma in another lifetime and your now existence is free of it. Somehow there's a very non-local interaction given. So I just once on a seminar, I thought, let's give it, no, it was not even a seminar, it was a private thing. I thought, give it a chance to try to work with representations of the split mothers. And I asked the client to make his two mothers, create them out of his memory, like how it felt like to have those two, taken from basically his expectations from partnerships with women. He had that split view. This is what evolves out of it, that you might have a partner that is all loving and blonde and beautiful and supportive and touchy, but you're sexually dysfunctional with this partner. And instead you go to whores that might give you AIDS or a tripper or whatever. So it's always kind of this whore that is life-threatening and the supportive Madonna. This is kind of the core template. It is created out of that. You can see it in every second Hollywood movie. It's playing with this archetype. Original archetype would be Metropolis by Fritz Lang. If you really want to study the archetype and how it's built. So I just asked the client to put his two imaginary mums in a row. So the good one was standing in front of him and the witch was behind. And then I told him to ask the witch to enter into the Madonna, the whore to enter into the Madonna, to fuse the two pictures in his perception. And I was not even sure if it would really change something about the spiritual health of his mother. And it doesn't look like. It's just in his, it's a thing happening in his perception. And the moment he integrated those two pictures, his consciousness shifted back to perceptual. So he, from being basically completely out of his body in that dream space that was necessary to be able to split the mums, he went back into the experiencing the now, and his soul re-entered the body, like woof, and suddenly he was there, really there, really incarnated. And I tried it on myself because I also have this autism spectrum topic in my life, and spent most of the days outside of myself. And it was not the cliche thing. It was not like Madonna and whore. It was more like my non-sexual supportive mom, the way I experienced her, but I disliked her in that picture. It was not the loving one, because she was with the fear as well. So something was a bit off from that picture, and I really more liked the other one, because the other mom she was like a young dog. She was hungry for life, lively, quick. She had all the positive emotions with her, plus sexuality. But it was something really joyful. And I reintegrated the two, puff, same effect. My spirit, or the aspects of my spirit that had the tendency to be in thoughts in the conceptual realm, suddenly incarnated back into my body. And don't ask me how many hours and hours and hours therapists spend on fixing those problems. With the people who notoriously need to go to prostitutes or whatever you can think about,
Really, do you think it had something to do with maybe allowing your mother to become who she was instead of who you thought or needed her to be? Allowed the healing to rebound back on you, so to speak? Was part of that?
I don't know if she was related. I think it is something completely internal in me.
Okay.
I mean, as a child, you are in compassion. So somehow my spirit must have known my real mom. But she never showed up. She was just afraid that something could happen to me. So instead of being lively and happy and then dance around the flat, she was all worried and on duty all day. And this is what my eyes saw from her. And maybe I have felt the other one that was not allowed to live. And the interesting thing that the reason for the split on her end, the fear that something could happen to her children, as a mom that had a husband who was working 24/7, basically, being responsible alone, day in, day out. That was something that ended up in my system after the integration. I did it in the morning, and the entire day I was completely drowning in fear. And then I had to realize, okay, this is not my fear. It's hers. But I couldn't access it before. So it's kind of looked like an equation, kind of happy mom plus fear is unhappy mom. And if you integrate the two, fear is left over and needs to be dealt with. It's a lot of those things are really like being, if you deal with them, it's like being a car mechanic. A human spirit has a certain setup, and if things are, they never get completely lost, but they can be displaced. And you need to put them back into the right place. Like if it was her fear, fear needs to be with her, not with me.
Got yeah. So did that help you understand your armor, the body armor, by doing this exercise, being perhaps made of some of those fears, or?
Body armor, personally, I solved before.
Okay.
Still on the hard way. I didn't know the trick back then. It was more about the Madonna Hall complex and the split parent personalities.
Do you think that could be a root cause of body armor, or one of them, for people maybe that didn't heal it the way that you did and are watching this?
But body armor normally appears as a mean of self-protection. If there's violence in the family, emotional violence or physical violence, then I would expect body armor to be developed. To numb yourself down exactly in the spots where pain would hit the most.
For sure.
And then it's like, if you have too much of it, but the environment is not violent anymore, you will end up cutting yourself or something, you know? This is what is the inconvenient end of it. That it's always kind of the same pattern. You grow up in an environment that is toxic. You develop measures to counteract it, to be able to survive and make your life in a way. And then you grow up, then you actually are in the position to define your own life, to choose the people you want to be with. You could choose loving, beautiful people. But because you are used basically to live with the countermeasures, all the binary part of your personality is manipulating you into environments and relationships that deliver exactly the same toxicity you were used to as a child. So it's like keeping yourself in a cage of painful experience until it's resolved. And this is kind of also a big block of things. Understanding personality is something that makes only sense within a toxic environment.
Mm.
Right? When a child is himself, true self, divine impulses, everything perfect in place. But environment says you're not allowed to survive like that. You need to adopt in a different way. The only part of a human that can lie is the mental field. The heart can never lie. The emotional body can never lie.
Mm.
So if I am forced to lie to survive, the only thing that can deliver that service is my mental field. So we have the trigger in the emotional field, kind of where the pain was delivered to. This is the traumatized chakra. Then you get the impulse. It's like a strand bypassing the heart, going into the reptilian brain.
Mm.
And there you have stored the learned personality patterns.
Right.
So if pain is triggered, personality needs to jump out, coming through the axis bars, jumping into the external mental field, taking over control with a learned behavior.
Mm.
Like if you were punished for being honest, personality will be a thief.
Right.
Yeah? Take in the hidden. So whenever you feel punished, you need to steal something. It's automatized behavior. You can't not steal then because it's personality based. It's just a program that is recorded and replayed. And but it's kind of the same relationship between true self and spirit, being of high complexity, and mental field structures being binary like a demon.
Mm.
It's easy to deal with them. Everything that comes into perception, everything self-created that comes into perception can easily be uncreated just by a conscious decision. So we can dissolve our personalities just by acknowledging them.
Mm.
Saying, thank you, don't need you anymore, you're gone now, my decision, buff.
Mm.
From that divine perspective, it's no problem. The hard bit to be able to do that is arriving in heart consciousness. And this is something that needs a lot of self-observation first. What part of myself is what? What is me? What is non-me? What is mental? Balancing the entire thing. Some people, the knowledge about the setup of a human energy field is non-existing. If you have someone who is emotional and people say he's heartful, bullshit, he's emotional.
Mm.
And then you have the real emotional, where the emotional field is active, and you have someone who's just running drama queen business on the mental field plane with mental representation of emotions, and he doesn't feel anything. So many different ways to be, and there's no public discussion on anything that even comes close to what a human really is.
Mm.
And being emotional has nothing to do with the heart. The heart is more complex.
Sure.
Emotion can be included in the heart, like thought can be included in the heart.
Mm.
And they both are coherent with each other in the heart.
Mm.
And whoever has a conflict between mind and emotion is definitely not in the heart.
Mm.
He is directly entangled between the two, and they can have conflicts of interest. Yeah. The bride is looking nice. Shall I fuck her? No, I'm married. I've got children. I'm responsible. Typical conflict for a human. If he would be heart-based, he wouldn't struggle for a second.
Mm.
Because there's no place for an affair if you love someone.
Mm.
And if you don't love someone and you're in your heart, you would have left already. So, the love in the heart doesn't allow any conflict to even develop.
It's a beautiful way of seeing it. Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Super sweet. This is great, Harald. These conversations always go to places I never imagined, but always hoped they would go to, and yet they go deeper and also more. It's interesting. This one's more, usually talking with you is a little complicated, but in some ways this has become simplified. As far as taking the complicated and making it simple to, I would say in this conversation, you've allowed anyone truly listening to pick up some ideas for healing themselves.
Can't make me lie to my heart. No one tells me where I should start. Freedom first is what I say.